Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast with your host, Jamie Kase. The goal of this podcast is to give listeners a unique look into sales strategies from top industry executives. We introduce you to the heads of sales and heads of distribution who will help you understand the inner workings of the successful sales organizations from philosophy to execution. This podcast is essential for sales professionals seeking wisdom from the best in the field. If you're not familiar with Dakota and their Dakota Rainmaker content, please check out dakota.com to learn more about their services.
This episode is brought to you by Dakota Marketplace. Are you tired of constantly jumping between multiple databases and channels to find the right investment opportunities? Introducing Dakota Marketplace, the comprehensive institutional and intermediate database built by fundraisers for fundraisers. With Dakota Marketplace, you'll have access to all channels and asset classes in one place, saving you time and streamlining your fundraising process. Say goodbye to the frustration of searching through multiple databases, websites, Form ADVs, and say hello to a seamless and efficient fundraising experience. Sign up now and see the difference Dakota Marketplace can make for you. Visit dakota.com/Dakota-Marketplace today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast. Jamie Kase, founder and CEO of Dakota. I am joined by Jamie Kase from HarbourVest's, who is the managing director and head of global investor relations. So, Jamie, welcome.
Thank you, Guy. Great to be here. Thanks for the time.
Jamie Kase joined HarbourVest's in 2015 to oversee all aspects of the firm's global sales, marketing, communications, and investor relations efforts. Jamie joined the firm from Capula Investment Management, a London-based hedge fund manager, where he served as global head of investor relations. Jamie brings more than 30 years of experience to his role and has extensive experience leading sales and marketing efforts in the U.S. and globally. His prior experience includes leadership positions at global asset management firms, including State Street Global Advisors, ING Investment Management, Merrill Lynch Investment Managers, and Lehman Brothers. Jamie serves on a number of philanthropic boards, including Chair NYC Foundation for Cerebral Palsy, United Cerebral Palsy of New York City, and the Wheeler School. Jamie received a BA in political science from Brown University in 1982. So as everyone knows, we do this podcast to share ideas from some of the best distribution people in the industry. And we're going to hear from a great one today as Jamie's going to talk about HarbourVest's explosive growth from 0 to 40 billion to 120 billion. So with that, Jamie, why don't you just give us a little background on yourself, et cetera?
Sure, Guy. Well, let's start with the important stuff.
Yes.
Father to 4 boys, owner of 5 Labrador Retrievers, and next week celebrate my 37th anniversary with my wife, Helene. So that's the important stuff.
That's insane. What age did you get married? Because you don't look like
I don't want to tell you.
That's phenomenal.
Don't want to tell you.
So it's even more than one dog per kid.
More than one dog per kid. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. Now back to me and work. So I've been in sales management, and finance my entire career. Started investment banking, where I frankly learned the power and importance of relationships. Secondly, I worked in derivatives and in capital markets, where I learned about risk management and how clients use derivatives to do what they want to do and get rid of what they don't want.
Right.
And then the last stage of my career has been in private markets and asset management, where I've tried to apply all of that to what we do in asset management.
Right. And that's great. So what would you say the number one thing is the biggest transfer that was transferable from early in your career to what you're doing now at HarbourVest?
So for me and how we run this large organization, it's about providing solutions to our partners.
Gotcha.
And that's what I learned from that banking relationship, that trusted partnership, and then derivatives, the solution-based engagement.
Nice. And could you give us a little background on HarbourVest and just walk us through the levels of growth, the stages of growth?
So HarbourVest is 40 years young. We hope to be here for a very, very long time. And we started as a small part of John Hancock, their venture firm, or their venture sleeve. We then spun out and became a private company, and we've been growing ever since.
Right.
We're still 100% owned by the employees and the partners of the organization. We have no third-party investor, and we are a partnership in everything we do.
Gosh. So walk me through just the growth, because has it always been like the underlying products, if you will, structures? Could you just walk us through that?
Sure. So we started out as a traditional fund of funds organization in the venture space. Then that grew into the buyout space. Then somebody came along to us and said, could we sell you an interest that we had in what we did? And we didn't know if that was even possible or legal. So our secondaries business was born 37 years ago.
Wow.
At the same time, we started to invest alongside our partners. Our co-investment business was born. So our growth has been incremental and extensions of what we do. We're now in the private credit space because our GPs wanted us to be part of the capital stack with them. And we've also expanded into infrastructure, again, on the back of the secondaries business.
Gotcha. And then as you've grown, what are the stages of growth? So when were you, because 40's a huge number, right?
Yep.
And then, but 120 is a whole nother conversation.
So when I joined in 2015, we were about $45 billion in AUM. And the firm recognized the need and importance to professionalize and institutionalize how we engage with our clients around the world. We were doing a good job, but we thought we could do better. And heretofore, we were doing what most private equity firms do, which is the investment professionals cover the client. And the determination was we needed direct relationship people to cover the clients.
Right.
That was a very substantive shift for the organization. So during that transition, we hired a bunch of salespeople. We focused their attention to be partners with our clients, and we systematically identified which markets, which channels of distribution aligned with our product set, and we grew from there.
How many salespeople were there when you started in 2015 to now?
We probably had less than 10, and now our entire sales organization is probably about 80 plus.
Wow.
Globally across 13 offices.
Right. So let's unpack that a little bit. And how is the team overall, like structured from a hierarchical kind of?
Sure. So we have two broad-based divisions of responsibility, institutional and private wealth, because institutional clients are different from private wealth. In private wealth, we have Americas and outside of the Americas, because again, that's a very different organizational
What's
construct.
the asset split between Americas, non-Americans?
So if we think about institutional private wealth to start, it's still about 95-5, 90-10 in terms of institutional AUM, because that was where we grew.
Right, gotcha.
And it's over the years, our private wealth clients have come to us and we started to partner with them. And that's led to a pretty significant expansion. This year, in fact, it'll be about 20% of the AUM that we raise.
I want to start to talk about culture and as you structured the organization, because clearly that's going from 10 to 80. I mean, that's an 8-fold increase. And this podcast and everything that we're talking about here is about best practices, right? Yep. Hearing from seasoned veterans and who have done this and have a certain way of doing things. So could you just talk from a top-down perspective,
Sure.
and culture, and what let's start off with what does the word culture mean to you, and then how do you apply it to your team?
So culture to me, frankly, Guy, is the single most important thing we have. We could do everything right, but if we have a bad culture, it doesn't work.
Right.
So it starts from the very top of the organization. As you heard me say, we're a partnership in legal form, but it's literally how we operate with our team, how we operate with the GPs with whom we invest, the LPs that we manage and are privileged to manage capital for, and the communities in which we operate. So it starts with partnership. And then within the organization, what you find to a person is ambitious, driven, focused, smart as hell, but a team that cares about each other.
Yeah. And
from that, we feel like we can really grow.
So we had, 2 days ago, we had Mark Lazarian from
Very
Avenue.
Successful.
Yeah. And he came into the office that you were just sitting in, and we're going to help him market a new product that he's coming out with. And he was talking about the NBA because he owns the Milwaukee Bucks. And he said that, he goes, you have two different ways of running an NBA team. So it's superstars or talent, right? Some people go after talent. Other people go after creating a team. I thought it was very fascinating. And he goes, the Milwaukee Bucks, he goes, team.
Team is everything.
Right.
Right. I redesigned our comp system when I first joined. Starts with team success.
Right.
Only after team success do we then drill down into individual success.
So let's talk about, because since you brought it up, comp. Because I'll tell you what I did on comp for our investment sales team. 2011, I put it in place and have never changed it. Is this something, because salespeople, the moving ball, right, that can drive them nuts. How do you sort of deal with that in terms of comp?
So what we do is at the beginning of every year, we identify what the firm objectives are. We then establish those as team goals for the entire IR organization. And we are a discretionary compensation system at HarbourVest. And so we set the pool at the end of the year against the success against those objectives. So everybody knows at the start of the year what we're trying to achieve. And some of those are near-term goals. We're going to raise these dollars. Some of those are long-term goals. We're going to start engaging with this client base. We're going to start penetrating this marketplace. At the end of the year, I sit with the CEOs and we define how well we did against those goals. That sets our pool. Then we take that pool and we look at each individual because, again, it's about accountability. It's about understanding what your goals were and how you did against them.
Gotcha. And then walk us through the team structure between institutional and if you have intermediary, or how does that comprise now?
So again, private wealth, we cover our intermediaries, our distribution partners around the world, and we call on RIAs and direct clients as well. Institutional is frankly everything else.
Right.
And we're split geographically in that regard. So in all of the 13 offices, there are sales folks who cover the institutional marketplace within their geography. We find that having cultural connection and on-the-ground talent to help our clients through their challenges is the only way to achieve. I've made a very specific distinction that an institutional client can be a pension fund, an endowment, an insurance company, and I still have the same people in the West Coast cover that client base, as opposed to a public funds team or a corporate pension team or an endowment team, because their needs are very similar.
I love that, because that's just so sensible. You know what I mean? Because having, channelizing it, right? I understand institutional maybe versus RA. You separate that, right?
Absolutely.
But because I've never really understood the deep channelization. I really like one salesperson covering all this.
I started that way, but I saw it didn't make any sense. The only place I've made an exception, though, is around consultants.
Right.
For us, consultants are a massive leverage point for us. And so we have a dedicated team that exclusively covers research and the field and works in partnership with the sales folks and the underlying clients of those consulting firms. That's
a great takeaway from best practices. So now we have an understanding of the team. Can you walk me through, because I think this is one of the coolest things in business, you know what I mean, is the meeting cadence and how you keep the team connected. Can you walk me through philosophically first and then specifically around how you manage that?
So again, if you start at the top, which is we're going to be a solutions partner to our client, and we have vast resources of the firm to make available to the clients to solve those problems, you have to focus. So you can't cover 200 folks in your territory successfully. Because if you do that, you become a product salesperson and not a solutions provider. That can work in certain instances, but with what we're trying to achieve broadly as a firm, we have to be a solutions provider. So we narrow people down into smaller buckets of prospects and existing clients, and we ask them to drill deep.
I love that.
And then the goal is to really engage with those clients to understand what their issues are, what their challenges are, what their objectives are. The meetings you could have as an output of that can range from a discussion about a capability, secondaries right now, or it could be as something as broad as, I have an investment team, I'm trying to figure out how to grow it, how to pay it, how to develop it. So we bring in our head of human resources to meet with the client, to help them understand what we've done over our 40-year history, how we work with our talent to develop them, to compensate them, to grow them, and what the challenges are as you grow those kinds of organizations. That's bringing the firm to bear on the client. So the meeting cadence is as often as possible and as regularly as possible, because the only way you can stay fully engaged with your client.
So it's a deep account coverage model. I love that. How about internal meetings and how you either how the team communicates with you or with one another and stays basically what I would consider to be accountable for their progress against their sales plan?
So we do it in two ways. The first is that each of my regional heads have regular cadence meetings on a weekly basis with their respective teams.
Okay.
I meet with my regional heads and my direct reports on a weekly basis, specifically calendarized. Now, because we have a pretty powerful CRM system, There's a lot of transparency on exactly where we are against goals and objectives by the individual, by the team, by the product, et cetera. So I don't need to spend a lot of time asking for that update because I've got it right in front of me.
Right.
Rather, we can drill right into the issues that clients and our people are facing.
Okay, I do want to get to the CRM, but let's just wait 1 second.
Sure.
So the regional heads are meeting with their team, going through pipelines and just reviewing their progress against the plan. And since they do have a smaller cohort of people that they're calling on, if you will, it's digestible. And I love that because I'm a big fan of chunking information into bite-sized morsels, right?
Yep. The other thing we've tried to do within those team constructs is to encourage each salesperson to bring success stories. I did this and it worked. Here's how I did it. And I'm struggling with this. Anybody have any ideas?
Yes.
Now that's hard because salespeople don't want to admit that they're struggling, but we really encourage it because after all, we don't all have the answers.
Yeah. So years ago, had a kid in our office, he's 3 years out of college. And I walked into his office and he goes, "Hey, Guy, do you know anything about these consultants? Do you know anyone here, anyone there?" I'm like, "Hey, do you see that guy over there? That office right there? He's been covering consultants for 20 years and he's been renting space, one of our offices." I said, "Walk 8 feet over and have a conversation with them." So we now have our Dakotisms, when you go in and you have to do your cultural stuff and you line all that up.
Yep.
This coach goes, everyone has like the standard ones that you say, like leadership and teamwork and all that stuff. He goes, "That's great." He goes, is there anything like original to your company?" I said, "Original? We have these things called Dakotisms." He goes, "What are those?" So I started reading up he goes, "That's what you want to put in your thing. It's like walk 8 feet, don't go cowboy." Like walk 8 feet is tap into the collective knowledge of the group.
Right.
And then don't go cowboy is don't come into me right after and said, "Oh yeah, I'm working on a $900 million supervisory deal." "Oh, when did that happen?" "Oh, like 2 months ago." I'm like, now you've deprived everyone of being able to help you. You don't know what conversations I've had this week, last week, everything, right? So is that the same theory?
It is the same. I want to see that list of Dakotisms. I might grab some of them for myself.
One we have is we grow apples. We sell to apple buyers. We're not trying to convince orange buyers to buy apples. So people can get in the convincing business, right? Yep. That's not a business you want to be in.
No.
Another thing that I banned in 2011 was the word "great meeting." So it sounds like you guys have the same thing where it's like, "Hey, how was the meeting?" And they say, "Oh, great meeting." I'm like, "Good. Did they wire 10 million in the meeting? Or can you just tell me what their current status is and what are the next steps?"
Exactly. I think that's critical because it is a journey and it doesn't just happen like that. And it doesn't just happen because of you. It happens because of the whole team working to drive that success.
Yeah. And I would say, people talk about communication, but I think that's kind of the point, right? Is that an organization that gets constrained just lacks the ability to communicate and share information because everybody's collecting all this information every day, right?
Correct. And again, it goes back to transparency and advocacy. Your team, each of the individual salespeople knows that you're working on their behalf. And when you're working on their behalf, they're more willing to share and engage as opposed to being afraid that you're competing against them.
Right. And then it's just amazing when I'm listening to you. It's not a surprise you've gone from 40 to 120 in your tenure as a sales head. But
pretty awesome investment team behind us, for sure.
Of course. But as a company, you've created a culture to be able to get stuff done. Sounds like.
We have. It's not easy. We're a pretty complex organization, but the firm has put in place a lot of processes and capabilities to assist. So when I look to expand my channels of distribution, I partnered with a colleague who led transformation efforts at another major organization. And he helped me on the detail. I was big picture, he was detail. Right. That partnership really led to massive transformation of our efforts.
Oh, that's great. So one thing I think a lot of people want to hear about is how do you report up progress against your plan as a team to your CEOs and executive leaders?
So when I first started, I would be asked as we got close to a quarter, where are we against goals? And I have to try and figure out, okay, this fund is at this, and we have this, what we think is going to happen. Now I have a report. Comes to me instantaneously all the time. And I've made it completely available to my CEOs. And so when we get together and we spend an hour reviewing success against pipeline and where we are against fundraising once a month together. They have it all the time, so they call me on an ad hoc basis regularly. But we systematically go through the data and we understand what's happening in the US, what's happening with secondaries here, why isn't credit selling there, what's going on with this, how are we doing against goals? And so it's a very robust conversation because we have the data to support it.
So what I'm hearing from you, and it's kind of, I absolutely put this in place because I didn't want to be the tail. I wanted to be the dog, if you will, because I didn't want to get those phone calls saying, hey, what are we doing? Why is this not happening? What's going on? It's like, no. And so what we do, our philosophy is create the plan, sit down and get agreement, what good looks like,
Yep.
and then communicate weekly progress against the plan. Then You're never getting those nasty phone calls.
Yeah, look, you can see the data very clearly in our firm, and we've made that data completely transparent. So our CEOs are called the Executive Management Committee. So we have a dashboard available on our CRM system, Salesforce. It's EMC dashboard. Anybody in the organization can open that dashboard and see exactly what I'm sharing with the CEOs on a regular basis around our progress against goals.
That's amazing. So can you, because part of this discussion is, CRM is a like near and dear to my heart. In fact, we created a whole database business around CRM. I live in CRM, the whole thing, it runs our business. I mean, it literally runs the business, and nothing can happen without it. Can you just tell me, because a lot of organizations, it's all shades of gray in terms of their belief systems in a CRM and a dedicated CRM and everything. I know people adopt it. Can you give me your philosophy, just because it's really a business question?
I don't think in this day and age that you can maximize your opportunities for success without a very deep and detailed and thoughtful CRM system.
Right.
For two reasons, right? The first is each salesperson is an individual businessman or person. They have a set of goals, and how they use the CRM system helps them prioritize their efforts every single day. They got a lot to do every day, and without the help from that system, they're looking at a list and making sure they're checking it off. You can't do that anymore.
Right.
It's too complicated. So the CRM system is at the very first, the most important thing for them to drive their own individual success. For me, I cannot run my business without the CRM.
Right.
I need to understand what's happening around the world. I need to be able to share that. We need to be able to shift gears and allocate resources someplace if we're needed to help drive success. We can identify problem areas early. We can identify successes that we want to lean in on. And then with the help of folks like you and the data that you provide coming into our CRM system, we actually have hired a bunch of data analysts and a whole commercial operational excellence group that works with me to figure out where we should be going.
That's great. So, hey, one little update. Today we're releasing 4,300 insurance company general accounts.
Rob told me. I already sent an email to the team to get a demo.
36,000 holdings.
Already sent the team. Got to get a demo for this.
So that took 18 months of work.
That's a unique set of data.
What we have put together, but it's been, man, oh man, is that hard. Whew.
And for us, that data is absolutely essential, because with those holdings, we actually, with our quantitative team on the data science side, not on the commercial side, we can actually look at those holdings and help evaluate where we can help that insurance company figure out what they need to do to have an optimal portfolio.
Right, I love that.
Very powerful.
I love that. So I don't want to lose this because it's my favorite. So at our conference, I did fundraising best ideas, and I went through 3 leverage points. That's what I was saying to the team. I said to everyone, I thought when I did CRM, the first one was sales plan. The second one was asking the 2 tough questions as you're closing out a meeting, which is basically, is this a strategy that would fit in your portfolio? If not, I know what the follow-up is. If yes, then I ask the next question. I say, okay, if it's an open-ended fund, are you going to do a search in the next year? If it's a closed-end fund, will you be able to make our 3/31/24 close?
Right. Exactly.
They say no. I know what the follow-up is. If
Exactly.
they say yes, I know, right? It has to happen. So
you got to have that outcome after those meetings.
Key point of leverage. But when I went through the CRM, and explained to everybody the power of it, people came up to me afterwards like, oh my God, that's amazing. You do this. I'm like, I was almost embarrassed to say it, right? Because I thought I might be insulting this lovely crew, but they were more or less like, no, Guy, this is like something I need to lean into. And what I was explaining to them is the leverage that you can get from a salesperson for the past tracks.
Yeah.
So if you enter all the meetings you've scheduled, you can run past activity reports.
Totally.
And it triggers sales actions that's not on the piece of paper.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And it's so powerful. And then when you layer in additional data, like so-and-so left and went to Y, triggers. Oh, yes. I knew him there. I know him here. Let me call him, right? You wouldn't have known that without that data.
And we have that in our dashboard, all the job and role changes. Yeah, I know it's so crazy powerful. And then of course, managing up with your pipeline reports, one click and they're all right there, right?
Transparency is very powerful, both to the positive, but then it also identifies areas that I need to improve. That's okay as well.
Yeah. We worked for a very large private equity firm in 2012 to 2015. And the head of distribution is an amazing person. And she goes, hey, Guy, talk about your CRM. I said, what's the question? She goes, how do you get them to adopt it? I kind of looked at her. I said, well, number one, I pay the commissions out of it.
Right.
I said, number two, we put the pipeline up on the screen and we have two fields that are the most revealing fields at the opportunity screen. Current status, text box,
status update,
and next step, right? So you can't. I said, but this is not to embarrass anyone. No. This is to make everyone playing at the highest level. This is in everybody's best interest, right? I mean, I'm not doing it to be some micromanager. It's like, no, this is in our best interest. You're going to get more out of your career by doing this.
Yeah. Look, I have long held the view, very simply, that if a salesperson is hugely successful and they have a very robust CRM system, it proves the power of that. If they're hugely successful and they don't have a robust CRM system, I'm wondering how lucky they were.
Right.
If they are not successful and they don't have a robust CRM system, they're not doing their job.
Right. So I'll translate that and how opportunistic selling, which is most salespeople, opportunistic selling. And I told our team, this is opportunistic selling, which I'm fine with, plus sales process.
Yeah.
Right. Which includes CRM and all that. But you combine those two, then that's where the magic happens. Then you don't need somebody to be this insane relationship person, correct, right? Or rainmaker and everything, right? I feel like I can teach everybody if they want to buy into the sales process and they can have success.
Look, I think about this a lot. To me, it's all about prep and practice and reps, right? Having played with you, you're an outstanding golfer. But I know that didn't just happen, right? It took, same thing applies to our business, right? Know a client cold before you walk in the door. Right. Know your products cold. Know your firm cold. You cannot replace any of that.
Yeah.
Right? It's very straightforward.
So Jim Dunn at Verger, right? We interviewed him on our Cover Live. He is so funny. He goes, the first question I ask people when they want a meeting with me and they sit down, he goes, where'd I go to college?
Perfect.
And a lot of people can't answer it. That means you didn't do your research.
Exactly right.
Right?
Exactly right.
Our president, Danny DeVanco, it's unbelievable to watch him and his yellow pad to prep for a meeting. I mean, the level of notes that he takes before each and every meeting he does to prepare is unbelievable. So such respect for that.
Look, we just did a huge sales training with an outside provider, and the first day was about prepping for the meeting.
Right.
I think it was pretty basic, right? But no, it was essential. And, I get feedback from investment teams all the time around individual salespeople and how well prepared they felt or didn't feel from that work that was done or not done.
Yeah, and let's be honest, most salespeople, I'm not going to say that I'm perfect, wing it. They go in and they wing it. Exactly. Andrew O'Shea on our team, brilliant little insight. When he goes to see an RIA, he goes to the website, he reads the most recent investment newsletter. And then that really gives you like the course of action, right? Of what they're thinking and how they're thinking about investing.
Totally.
I mean, as we all know, 95% of people don't do that, which is why we're doing this podcast, to be able to share these insights.
Absolutely.
Really powerful, critical, right? The preparation.
It's amazing.
Okay. We covered a CRM. So biggest challenge you've seen of managing the sales team going from 10 to 80?
Time. Look, I think the most important thing that I do as a sales leader is be available to our people around the world. So 13 offices, different time zones, Australia, Korea, China, back in Bogota, Colombia, I've got to be available. So essentially I'm 27. Okay. So I'm 20 hours, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, because I know if somebody's reaching out to me, it's one of two things. It's either a great success and I want to celebrate that because we have to celebrate success, or they have an issue that I have to help them with. And I've got to be available. That's the biggest leap for me, is that growth is helping everybody maximize their opportunity for success.
That's awesome as a leader. So celebrating success, just walk me, just give a few, unpack that just a little bit, because I think that is so important that people feel appreciated. And I always celebrate the littlest wins like they're huge.
Yeah, look, we as a firm in the old days would only talk about the things we have to do next and the challenges. And we've recognized over time that success breeds success. And so we celebrate it. We celebrate a great RFP being completed that got us to the next round. We celebrate the work in the meeting that got us to the finals. And then, of course, we celebrate the win.
Right.
And we do it both in a targeted way with the individual and the team connected, but sometimes we celebrate it very broadly. I do a monthly global call for the IR organization, and I invite anybody who wants to join that call. So, as we said, I've got 80-ish folks. That call has upwards of 200 people call into it. Investment folks, et cetera. And I celebrate successes. I also talk about challenges in that.
So we have a 7:45 software check-in 5 days a week. We have an 8 o'clock investment sales team check-in. We have an 8:30 all company check-in every day, 5 days a week. The first thing that we say every day, good news from yesterday.
That's great.
Share good news.
It's great.
Right. And they
starts it out the right way.
Right. You go around the horn and then, it's wonderful. So the current market environment, clearly fundraising's down, right? The last 10, 12 years have been quote unquote easier. If you will, I don't think fundraising's necessarily ever easy.
Never.
But it was easier. Now, tactically, right? Going forward, right? Any views on, and I want to just get into the sort of the deep vein of difficulty and what firms need to be doing looking forward to keep their fundraising at current levels or even increasing?
So I have a fundamental rule of thumb. When the chips are down, when things are difficult, that's actually when you need to engage with your clients more than ever before, because they need you, right? And if you're not making that call, I remember during the financial crisis, people didn't want to call the client. I was like, no, this is exactly when you call the client. Granted, they're not going to buy a thing right now. They're frozen, but they want to talk to somebody. And here's your opportunity to really get to know them well. And so it's being available, being engaged, and thinking about the long run. Again, as a private firm, we have the luxury of thinking for year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 out of there.
Yeah.
The second thing is, of course, you need to focus on what the clients are willing to do, what they can do, how you can help them. Some of our clients are unloading products in their portfolio. So that's really helped our secondaries business substantially. Some clients are buyers, and understanding why and what and how we can help them. This is where our quantitative tools have really come to bear in terms of taking in a client's portfolio, evaluating it, and helping them think through what that means for them today and tomorrow.
Yeah, that's really great. So during the pandemic, so many people were like, I'm not doing cold outreach. I'm not calling anybody. And I told our team, I said, pick up the phone.
Totally.
Don't even worry about selling a product. Okay. And one small cap value manager, one of the salespeople was like, I'm not going to call. It's a bad time for small caps. I said, the PMs have great insight. All of your clients want to know what they're thinking.
Correct.
Right. You don't need to sell them anything. And then if anything goes sideways, obviously just the key takeaway is pick up the phone as fast as you possibly can and communicate, right? So that's your philosophy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Never hide bad news.
Right.
It comes out anyway.
Exactly. Well, these are good takeaways because a lot of people have a lot of different opinions. Again, this is why we're doing this. So hopefully
it's a
these are key takeaways.
Great platform.
Right? Yeah. So what advice would you give to a young salesperson entering the investment sales industry today?
So look, it again starts with the golf analogy, right? You've got to really first, before you even make a phone call, understand everything about the firm you represent, everything about the products you represent, everything about what works. So understanding what your colleagues are doing, how you fit in with that, and then really understanding who you're going to call.
Right.
To your point, what college should I go to? If you can't answer that question, you've failed right from the get-go. And it's hard to recover from that. Right.
So the key takeaway, just so we're is preparation and
preparation.
Knowing, and the funny thing is, I call it knowing the table stakes,
totally
the ticker symbol, the basics. That stuff you don't have to have experience. It's just learn it.
Just
know
learn
it, right?
it. Just know it.
All right.
And then the other thing is, look, again, the golf analogy is very apt here. You're going to hit a lot of bad shots in a round. It's what you do on the next shot that really matters. Right. So you're going to get told no. That's okay. Get up the next day, get up the next call, and turn it into a yes or a maybe. The
preparation concept is so incredibly powerful. Then when you're in those meetings, you're so much more comfortable.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. Look, I must speak to clients around the world hundreds of times during the course of a year. And a lot of times I'm at a very high level. The overview of HarbourVest, who we are, what makes us strong. I've done that a lot. I still write out my notes before that meeting, every single meeting.
Wow, love that.
Right?
That's amazing. It's amazing. These are such key takeaways. Talk to me about when you look at other leaders, what are some of the sort of the characteristics that you really admire in other sales leaders and other heads of distribution, or even just business leaders in general?
My dad taught me a really important lesson when I was 18 and driving up to college. He said, listen, don't talk. You
Right.
learn so much more when you're not the one who's speaking. You can't learn when you're talking, right? Great sales leaders are listening all the time. They're listening for cues from their clients, from their people, from the investment teams. They're seeing things because they're listening. So that's number one.
Right.
Number two, never, ever compete with your people, right? Their success is your success. Celebrate them always. Most sales leaders are former salespeople,
Right.
so they crave to be applauded for the win. So they want to take credit if they really helped their team win. Don't do it. The team won. You won by default.
Right.
So don't ever compete with your people because they feel it and it turns them off and it impacts their willingness to engage with you.
Wow, that's so powerful, Jamie. I mean, I absolutely love that. And that's time tested, right? I mean, that's
Totally.
right.
Totally.
And what a culture that creates just by behaving that way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And as we're kind of closing out, Jamie, I want to end on another high note because this is really great. Is there anybody that's really influenced you, like in a way that's from sales, leadership, anything that kind of stands out?
So two that I'll highlight. I look for mentors anywhere I can find them because I can always learn and I want to learn every single day. So the first is my dad. He's 93. He still works. He's writing a book. He's doing research.
So great.
And I watch what he does and how he engages with people. And he's in the medical field and how he's been a leader and how he thinks about how he engages with his people. Very human touch. So I've always listened to what he has to say. We debate a lot, but we're very aligned. And then two folks inside of HarbourVest. The first is the individual who is running sales was an investment professional when I first arrived. And he was the one who made the decision that we needed to hire somebody from the outside. So he brought me in to take himself out of a job and to do something else inside the firm. And he told me, I was hired in November of 2015. And he told me when we were setting our objectives for 2016 that his number one objective for 2016 was to integrate me into the firm and make me successful. And I said, no, you're raising our secondaries fund. That's got to be your number one. He said, no, this is my number one objective because if you're successful and integrated, we will win. And he's always made himself available to me every single time I need him, whether it's to read an email, to debate a strategy, to talk about an individual, to understand the firm history. He's been instrumental to my success.
Wow.
The others are my co-CEOs. I came in with a lot of ideas. I'd done sales and sales management before. There's a book, right? And they challenged me every step of the way to make it a HarbourVest oriented outcome.
Right. Wow.
So everything we've done has been done with those are all great ideas. What's best for HarbourVest? Right.
And my takeaway there is, Jamie, because you are a great leader, but the great leader you really appreciate, right? You've got high level of appreciation for the people around you. And I mean, it's really special.
Very lucky.
Yeah.
We're very lucky at HarbourVest.
Well, this has been a ball. I got to tell you, so
Guy,
fun.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. You're quite a leader yourself.
All right. We love
learning from you as well.
We love having you. Well, thanks so much. And everyone, thanks so much for watching. Jamie, thank you.
Guy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You can find this episode and others on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. We are also available on YouTube if you prefer to watch while you listen. If you would like to check up on past episodes, check out our website, dakota.com. Finally, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please be sure to like, follow, and share these episodes. We welcome all your feedback as well. Thank you for investing your time with Dakota.
Hey, thanks so much for joining Rainmaker Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the show, enjoyed the interview. I know I loved it. And hey, if you wake up in the morning and you raise money for an investment firm you do cold outreach, whether you're a sales leader or salesperson, and you don't know about Dakota Marketplace, we would love to show it to you. It's world-class. It's used by over 880 investment firms and over 3,600 individual salespeople. To learn more, go to dakota.com and click on a free trial.